I had always thought birthdays were supposed to be happy, full of love, laughter, and surprises. But nothing could have prepared me for the moment my mother looked at me across the dinner table and said, in a voice colder than winter air, "Sophia, you're no longer part of this family." The words hit me like a truck. I froze, fork hovering midair, the half-eaten cake in front of me suddenly tasting like ash. My younger brother, Tyler, dropped his fork, eyes wide, not understanding. My dad, who usually tries to mediate, looked down at his plate, silent, his expression unreadable. I blinked, thinking I had misheard. "Wait, what?" I whispered, my voice shaking. Mom didn't flinch. Her eyes, normally warm and soft, were sharp and piercing. "I said it. You're burdened, Sophia. And we cannot live with you anymore. Not under this roof. Not after what I've discovered." The room went silent. The soft hum of the birthday candles seemed to mock me. I had always contributed to the household, paying bills, helping Tyler with school expenses, even covering groceries when Dad had a busy week at work. And yet here I was, accused of being a burden on the very people who had raised me. I forced a laugh, hoping it would lighten the tension. "Mom, this has to be a joke." But it wasn't. I felt my chest tighten as Tyler quietly muttered, "Sophia, are you really leaving?" I didn't answer. I just excused myself and went to my room, my heart hammering, tears threatening to spill. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the birthday decorations still hanging in my room. Balloons, ribbons, fairy lights, all mocking me with their cheerful glow. The night was restless. I couldn't sleep, my mind racing with questions. Why now? Why today? I thought we had a happy family at least most of the time. And more importantly, why would Mom say something so cruel without proof, without a reason I could even understand? The next morning, determination replaced the sadness. I realized that I couldn't confront her blindly. She would dismiss me, or worse, twist the story to make me look guilty. I needed evidence. I needed to understand exactly what my mom believed I had done and how Tyler or my older sister, Jenna, had influenced her. I started quietly digging. I went through emails, household bills, bank statements, anything that could explain Mom's sudden anger. That's when I noticed something strange. Certain withdrawals, money transfers, and emergency expenses didn't add up. Some bills were mysteriously higher, and some receipts were missing. It became clear. This wasn't about me. It was about manipulation. I realized my siblings had spun a story, convincing Mom that I was careless with money, that I was selfish and wasting resources. None of it was true, of course. But the evidence was subtle, hidden, and I needed to bring it to light. I quietly documented everything. Screenshots of bank statements, copies of household bills, even a few suspicious emails between Jenna and our mom about budget concerns I had never heard of. The more I uncovered, the angrier I became. Not just at them, but at the injustice of it all. I also noticed Tyler had overheard some of the arguments, and while he was too young to fully understand, I knew he had questions. Protecting him became part of my plan. He deserved to know the truth. That I was not the problem, that the story my siblings were telling Mom was false. By evening, I had gathered enough proof to confront the situation strategically. I couldn't just yell at Mom or demand explanations. That would have played into their narrative. I needed to present facts, chronological, undeniable evidence, so Mom and Tyler couldn't ignore the truth. I practiced what I would say, rehearsing calmly, controlling the anger that wanted to erupt. I would start by casually talking to Mom, acting as though nothing had happened, and then slowly reveal the discrepancies, one by one. Every hidden transaction, every manipulated bill, every misleading conversation would come to light. The thought of finally exposing the truth made my chest tighten in a mixture of fear and excitement. I wasn't seeking revenge in the traditional sense. I wasn't going to humiliate anyone for the sake of it. But justice, recognition, and clearing my name, that was my goal. The next morning, I watched Mom in the kitchen, sipping coffee and scrolling through her phone. Jenna and Tyler were in the living room, pretending everything was normal, but I could see the tension in their expressions. They thought they had won. They had successfully painted me as the burden of the family. But I had a plan. By the end of the day, the story would change, and this time the truth would be undeniable. I sat down at my desk, opened my laptop, and reviewed all the files one last time. The bank statements, emails, and bills were organized neatly, in chronological order, ready for presentation. I even made notes of suspicious messages between Jenna and Mom, moments where they tried to manipulate the narrative. This was my weapon. Not anger, not yelling, not crying. Evidence. And timing. When Mom eventually called me to the dining room for dinner, I walked in calmly, holding the laptop, my heart racing with anticipation. Tyler glanced up at me, his eyes wide. I gave him a small, reassuring nod. He would see the truth soon enough. I placed the laptop on the table, casually opening the first file. Mom's eyes narrowed, a flicker of confusion passing across her face. Jenna stiffened, sensing something was about to happen. I took a deep breath. Mom, I think we need to talk about what happened last night. About what you said at my birthday dinner. Her lips pressed into a thin line. Lily, I already told you why. I shook my head gently. No, you told me your version. But I've looked into the finances, the bills, and the emails. And the truth is very different from what you've been told. For a moment the room was silent. Tyler peeked over my shoulder, curious, sensing the tension. Mom's eyes darted toward Jenna, then back at me, suspicious but wary. I opened the first document. Here, I said, pointing to a bank statement, is proof of all the household expenses. Look at these numbers. Now look at the supposed overspending claims. I clicked through screenshots, pointing out inconsistencies, hidden transfers, and manipulated receipts. Mom's expression shifted. Confusion, shock, disbelief. Jenna's jaw tightened, realizing the plan weaved against me was unraveling. And just like that, the tension in the room transformed. I could feel the power shift slightly. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt in control. Not because I had yelled or cried, but because truth has a power all its own. I leaned back slightly, letting the silence speak. Mom looked at the evidence, then at me, and finally at Tyler. Her expression softened, though there was still tension. The realization was dawning, that she had been misled, that I was not the burden she had claimed. The wheels had been set in motion. By tonight the truth would be clear, and my voice, my careful, prepared, undeniable voice, would finally be heard. The moment had arrived. I took a deep breath, closed the laptop, and looked at my mom and siblings. The room was silent, charged with tension. Tyler clutched his notebook nervously, clearly aware that something serious was about to happen. Mom, I began calmly. I've gone through everything, the bills, the bank statements, the emails. I have proof that the narrative you've been told isn't true. Mom's eyes narrowed. What do you mean? She asked, trying to sound composed, but her voice trembled slightly. I opened the laptop again, pointing to the first document. These are the actual household expenses. See here. Every transfer, every bill, every purchase. And here are the manipulated claims Jenna and Tyler shared with you to make it look like I was careless. Jenna's face went pale. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Tyler's eyes widened, realizing the truth of what had been happening behind his back. Mom leaned forward, scrolling through the documents on the screen. Her lips pressed into a thin line as she absorbed each piece of evidence. I continued, my voice steady. I have contributed every month. I've helped with groceries, bills, and even Tyler's school supplies. I was never a burden. You were misled by lies. For a moment the room was frozen. I could see disbelief and shame flicker across my mom's face. Jenna tried to interrupt, but I held up my hand. No, listen. The evidence speaks for itself. You owe me an apology, not just words, but acknowledgement that I've been unfairly accused. Mom's voice broke. Sophia. Had no idea. Thought. I was just trying to. Her words faltered, trailing into silence. I took a deep breath. Trying to what, Mom? Humiliate me. Make me feel worthless on my birthday. I didn't deserve that. Not from you, not from anyone in this family. Tyler looked at me with wide eyes. Sophia. I didn't know, he whispered. I smiled softly at him. It's okay, little brother. Now you know the truth. And you'll remember it. Mom finally exhaled, her shoulders slumping. I'm so sorry, Sophia. I should have trusted you. I was wrong. Jenna's eyes lowered to the floor. I shouldn't have said anything. I didn't think. I nodded slowly. You've learned a lesson too. Words can hurt, and manipulation has consequences. The air in the room shifted. The tension lifted slightly, replaced by a mix of relief and lingering guilt. Justice wasn't about punishment. It was about truth being recognized. And now it was. I closed the laptop, standing tall. I'm not leaving this family, Mom. I'm not a burden. But I hope from now on honesty and respect guide our home. That's what family should be. Mom reached for my hand, tears in her eyes. You've shown strength and grace, Sophia. I am proud of you. I smiled, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. Tyler hugged me tightly, whispering, I'm glad you're my sister. And for the first time since that cruel birthday announcement, I felt victorious, validated, and at peace. The lies had been exposed, the truth had won, and justice, quiet, undeniable justice, had been served. No more accusations. No more manipulation. Only family, truth, and respect remained.